This is Land of Havilah, Daniel 12. The glorious man is still speaking. He was just saying that in the time of the end, a vicious king will arise who will have his way. He'll invade many lands, including the Holy Land. He'll destroy and utterly sweep away many. He's the king who appeared in chapters 7 and 8, who will cast down the sanctuary, cast truth to the ground, and wear out the saints of the Most High. The saints will be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time, which is 3.5 years. At that time, verse 1, at that time Michael will stand up, the great prince who stands for the children of your people, and there will be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. At that time your people will be delivered, everyone who is found written in the book. Many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. Those who are wise will shine as the brightness of the expanse. Those who turn many to righteousness will shine as the stars forever and ever. But you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book even to the time of the end. Many will run back and forth, and knowledge will be increased. Comment: in verse 1, there will be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation. Jesus almost quoted this, saying, "For then shall be a great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be." Matthew 24:21. And Jeremiah said, "Alas, for the day is great, so that none is like it. It's even the time of Jacob's trouble." Jeremiah 30, verse 7. In verse 1, despite all the trouble during those times, there will be help for God's people. Michael will stand up, the great prince who stands for the children of Daniel's people, with Daniel's people being defined as, quote, everyone who's found written in the book, end quote. So Michael won't just be helping the redeemed of the Jews, he'll be helping all God's people. With all the warfare and violence on earth, there'll be warfare in heaven right along with it on behalf of God's people to see them through, with Michael in the lead. Jeremiah tacked onto the end of his statement, but he'll be saved out of it, meaning God's people will be saved out of the tribulation. And verse 1 of the passage at hand says, at that time your people will be delivered, end quote. That doesn't mean they won't be persecuted and martyred. They will be. They'll be given into the Antichrist's hand 3.5 years, Daniel 7:25. But ultimately, quote, not a hair of your head will perish. By your endurance you will win your lives, Luke 21:18 and 19. In verse 2, many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt, end quote. There are so many verses on resurrection they become confusing as to how many resurrections there will be and who will be resurrected when. Pre-tribulation, post-tribulation, post-millennium. The post-tribulation and post-millennium resurrections are clear, Revelation 20, verses 4-6, but many expect a pre-tribulation resurrection as well, 1 Thessalonians 4:16. The point of verse 2 isn't to straighten all that out, it's just to say that some will be resurrected to life and some to everlasting shame and contempt. Therefore, the point of the tribulation isn't to make it through alive. Some will make it through, Matthew 24:22. But the point is to be faithful come what may. The destiny of every coward is everlasting shame and contempt in the lake of fire, Revelation 21:8. In verse 3, those who are wise will shine as the brightness of the expanse, and those who turn many to righteousness will shine as the stars forever and ever, end quote. This doesn't mean the wise will turn into literal stars. It doesn't say that. It says the wise and those who turn many to righteousness will shine. They'll have a glory about them. In verse 4, you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book even until the time of the end, end quote. There's an understanding of the book that's been unfolding through time. As the prophecies are fulfilled, the wise put the prophecies together with the fulfillments and understand more and more. In verse 4, the glorious man says, many will run back and forth, also translated, travel will increase. Up until 1800, there were just a person's own feet, and if he had an animal, he could ride it. And there were sailing ships, but oh, how travel has increased since then. And pair that with verse 4, knowledge will increase. What a strange thing to say in 536 BC. Why would knowledge increase? But since then there's been the printing press and now the computer age and information age. These are dramatic signs from the book of Daniel that the book is supernatural because no one could have predicted travel and knowledge would increase, and since they've increased so dramatically, we have an expectancy that the end is near. And not just those two signs, but many other signs are giving us a sense of expectancy. Now, speaking of two heavenly beings, not the glorious man over the water, and not the strengthening angel at Daniel's side, but two others, verse 5. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, two others stood, one on the riverbank on this side, and the other on the riverbank on that side. One said to the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, How long will it be to the end of these wonders? I heard the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand to heaven, and swore by him who lives forever, that it will be for a time, times, and a half, and when they have finished breaking in pieces the power of the holy people, all these things will be finished. Comment in verse 6, the time of trouble is a wonder in the sense that Daniel wondered about it, and we still wonder about it. One of those by the riverbank asked how long it would be to the end of these wonders, which is to say, how long will the tribulation last? The glorious man swore by him who lives forever, it will be for a time, times, and half a time. The book of Revelation defines a time, times, and half a time as 1,260 days, Revelation 12, verses 6 and 14. It's exactly 3.5 years using the 360-day year. That's the length of the tribulation, which has been established and determined and will not change. When the man swore to it, he lifted up both hands to heaven in verse 7. He swore for the benefit of God's people who will be caught up in it. Understandably, the people caught up in the tribulation will be counting the days, and they'll appreciate having a firm end date. They'll be able to count down the days. In verse 7, they, meaning the Antichrist and the world powers of his time, will finish breaking in pieces the power of the holy people, and all these things will be finished. So by the end of these days, the power structures of the world will be thoroughly evil, with none of God's people left in positions of public power at all. Ministry will take place only in very small and clandestine gatherings. Now Daniel says, verse 8, I heard, but I didn't understand. Then I said, My Lord, what will be the outcome of these things? He said, Go your way, Daniel, for the words are shut up and sealed until the time of the end. Many will purify themselves and make themselves white and be refined, but the wicked will do wickedly, and none of the wicked will understand, but those who are wise will understand. Comment in verse 8, Daniel didn't understand, but in verse 10, as the times approach, those who are wise will understand. They'll understand more than Daniel understood about his own prophecy. And in verse 10, none of the wicked will understand, end quote. While all this is going on, there will be a remarkable lack of insight across the world. As wicked as the Antichrist will be, they'll worship him, quote. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, everyone whose name has not been written from the foundation of the world in the book of life, Revelation 13:8. They'll think he's the greatest, so the sentiments of the people of the earth will be exactly backwards. None of the wicked will understand. It'll be a time of mass deception and error. In verse 10, many will purify themselves and make themselves white. On the one hand, we don't have anything to do with our own purification and making ourselves white. We're sinners saved by grace and so forth, which is true. But it's also true we have our own role and responsibility in the matter. There's a clear call that we should continually commit ourselves and submit ourselves to the process. We should purify ourselves and make ourselves white. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand, Matthew 3:2. The glorious man over the water says, verse 11, From the time that the continual burnt offering is taken away and the abomination that makes desolate set up, there will be 1,290 days. Blessed is he who waits and comes to the 1,335 days. Comment in verse 11, obviously the Jews will have a temple in the tribulation because there will be a continual burnt offering, which is the twice daily sacrifice of a lamb, Exodus 29:42. In verse 11, that offering will cease, and the abomination that makes desolate will be set up. From Daniel 9:27, the offering will cease in the middle of the 7 years. Then in verse 11, from the cease of the sacrifice to a certain event that goes unnamed, there'll be 1,290 days, which is 3.58 years, if we define a year as 360 days. So the 1290 is a countdown from the cease of the offering to something, but what? We do know it puts us right near the end of the tribulation, according to the duration of the tribulation in verse 7, but there must be something more specific to the 1290. We'll put it in the wait and see category. And in verse 12, another event will occur after 1,335 days. The starting point of that isn't clear. It might be the cease of the sacrifice, but the end point is stated that if a person waits until then, whether he waits in heaven or on earth, he'll be blessed. What that blessing is, the text doesn't say, but it must be associated with the kingdom of the Antichrist passing away and the kingdom of God arriving. The person who waits until then and doesn't abandon the faith will be blessed. Neither the 1290 nor the 1335 appear anywhere else in Daniel or Revelation or in the Bible at all, so that's all we have. There's one more verse in the book. The glorious man has been saying to Daniel, in effect, I know you don't understand everything. You're not supposed to, because some of it is sealed until the end. Here's all you need to know for now, verse 13. But go your way until the end, for you will rest and will stand in your inheritance at the end of the days. Comment in the last verse, the glorious man says Daniel will rest and stand in his inheritance at the end of the days, which means he'll pass away and experience a state of peace, and at the end of the days, after all the trouble has passed, he'll be resurrected and given an inheritance. His inheritance will be, quote, things which an eye didn't see and an ear didn't hear, which didn't enter into the heart of man. These God has prepared for those who love him, 1 Corinthians 2:9. God bless Daniel for laboring in prayer and fasting 3 whole weeks to bring us these things. That's the end of the book. Thank you for joining us. You can find our other materials on most podcast apps or on YouTube at the Land of Havilah channel. And for pretty much the same material, you can go to landofhavilah.net.